Hello everybody, welcome to the first Alumni Sessions. So excited to have you here with me tonight. So my name is Lucy Lynch, for those that don't know me, and I will be your host this evening. And I am Head of Graduate Partnerships at Eden Smith, and I run an education programme called Nurture, which bridges the gap between academia and industry, working with MSc Data Science and IoT students across the country. And I'm delighted, absolutely delighted, to kick off this event with the wonderful Mike Ferguson. Now, I don't want you to feel old, Mike, but you do have over 3 decades of industry experience working at C-suite level. So no pressure here. And I know that you are an international, well-renowned speaker. So I'm sure tonight is going to be an absolute walk in the park for you. And I know that you present and you teach masterclasses, and you are chairman of Big Data London, of which Eden Smith are the exclusive staffing partner. And we're just really delighted to have you on board. And I hope that you are ready and comfortable for tonight's presentation. And I know that you won't mind me sharing that you were hosting an event where you were the keynote speaker. You got everything ready, your suit was on, you went to your suitcase to get your shoes, and lo and behold, you packed 2 left feet. What did you do? You had to walk rather uncomfortably to the podium and then deliver a first-class presentation. So I know, as always, you'll be professional and amazing. And I hope tonight you have some comfortable footwear, even slippers maybe, because we're virtually at home. So kick back, relax, and I hope our students and our alumni will enjoy learning from your vast teaching and your experience of the data industry. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you, Lucy. I'm not showing you what's on my feet at the moment. Many thanks. Real pleasure to be here on the alumni session. My topic tonight is preparing data professionals for business. So if you're in university at the moment looking to come out and go into business as a data professional, hopefully this will give you some insights as to what I see certainly going on in organizations today. And certainly should give you, hopefully at the end of it, hope for the fact that that you've got a lot of opportunities out there that you can seize and drive value into the organizations that you're going to go out and join. For those of you already out there in industry, well, thanks again for taking time out of your schedule as well to come to this session. Okay, so my topics here is really to look at, first of all, at the sort of C-level downwards, and what's our expectation in terms of data and analytics and AI, and then contrast that to what you should expect to see in companies today, and try and look at the challenges, if you like, that companies are currently facing at the moment, and why it is that data and analytics, well, data in particular, is getting higher priority over analytics in many organizations. And then kind of look at, well, what should you be looking for to overcome the challenges that are out there? And even go, let's say, outside the realms of your immediate responsibilities to look at the bigger picture from a corporate point of view. To see if you can take some of your fresh ideas and add it into the mix to really make a difference for the organizations within you, which you work. And then we'll look at how you can what you can do to try and be effective in all of that. Okay, so let's get going. If we look at expectation today from executives, it's absolutely the case that they really think that data and analytics and AI are going to totally transform their business. That it's really going to cause major disruption and to give them a competitive edge, and hopefully allow them to become far more agile and move much more quickly and seize opportunities as and when they arise, as well as to make their organizations run more slicker. And if you look at some of the surveys that are out there, this is a very recent survey. It's a CEO survey done worldwide by the Institute of Business Value. So it's a pretty big survey. And what you can see right now is that there's significant priority around customer. Not just give me some customer insights, but give me customer experiences. Help me improve customer experiences, help me grow and build customer relationships. So it's not just tell me what's going on out there. It's use what you can find out about customers and bring in more and more data to be able to build relationships that last for the long term. Sorry, could just quickly, I got a lot of people waiting in the lobby. I don't know if you can let them in or something, but it keeps popping up on my headphones that's the case. So I don't know whether we can sort that out.
Oh, okay, Mike, on that.
Thanks. All right, so basically, as you can see, customers being given a priority. You look at the outperforming organizations from this survey, which talks about leaders and laggards and whatnot. The outperforming CEOs, if you like, and their organizations are really focused on customer experience, not just customer insight. So it's using the insights to really drive new value. And third on that list, as you can see on the left-hand side, is improving efficiency. So you put those two things together, you can see what's going on. On the one side, trying to retain customers and grow revenue. And on the other side, trying to improve efficiency and lower costs, which is going to widen the overall profit margins. But they're getting quite aggressive at doing it. And if you look at this survey, you can see absolutely that there's no shortage of desire amongst executives to want to invest in this. For the second year in a row, over 91% of the organizations surveyed in this particular survey said that they're continuing to increase their investment in data analytics and AI. And if you look at well, where are they in terms of rolling that out? Absolutely, you can see there's plenty of opportunity for growth. Only 26% saying they've already got something in production. Whilst maybe 2/3 saying they've got something in production, but it's limited or it's a pilot. So there's plenty of room for growth here, and no shortage of desire amongst executives to want to invest, which is all good news for you as data professionals or analytics professionals going out there. The other bit of good news is if you look at this recent Gartner survey from middle of last year, you can see that chief data analytics officers are leading the charge. They're heavily involved or totally leading the digital transformation within organizations, which really shows you the fact that data and analytics is front and center of any digital transformation program, which is all good news for data professionals. When it comes to, so that's the overall expectation, but then where are companies today with regards to data and analytics? If I look at it today, we are seeing major growth in the number of data sources. Really is exploding. A lot of them coming from outside, not just inside, but even new sources from inside the organization. We got machine-generated data and human-generated data, in addition to the traditional master data and transactional data that you would probably see in a classic data warehouse. Now what you've got is all kinds of machine-generated data, whether that's clickstream or data coming off of infrastructure log files. It could be IoT data coming off of consumer devices or industrial equipment that's being deployed, let's say, in a manufacturing organization, or maybe in a logistics operation, in order to get and understand that and get a much more detailed picture of operations in order to make it more efficient. Also, human-generated data, things like people's opinions on social networks. People want to know about that. They want to know about what people think about their brand. They want to what they think about particular products or particular aspects of products. In order to try and add that to what they know about customers already, in order to make sure that there's a complete view of what customers are thinking, and what they're doing with respect to what's going on in the market, even identify desires that could come out of things like Twitter data and things like that. Also understand complaints coming in off inbound email. And then there's a huge number of external data suppliers, increasingly open government data, which every government has pretty well these days, giving away free data. People are now adding that to what they already know. So all of this new data is coming in. And what we have in many organizations today is not just a single analytical system like a data warehouse, but a number of them. We could have things like Hadoop. We could have things like cloud storage where data pouring in there. So, data scientists building machine learning models. We got graph databases, maybe dealing with something like fraud, or we have things like streaming analytics coming off of IoT data, or even live financial markets data where you're trying to analyze what's going on there. And all of those analytical systems today are not only available on premises, but they're all available on the cloud. It's just that typically on the cloud storage is underpinning many of them. And there's a lot of activity going on in the cloud as well as in an on-premises environment. And without doubt, what we are seeing in the cloud is deeper synergy emerging between data warehouses and cloud storage. And so you get this whole idea of people talking about lake houses, for example, going on right now, trying to bring the worlds of data science and business intelligence closer together in a single environment. So all of that's going on at the moment. But generally speaking, in many of my clients, they're still running these systems, despite the fact that there are multiple analytical systems, they're still running them as silos and still running kind of independently of each other. And that can reveal problems. Also, we often see multiple data warehouses going on, often built by different teams at different points in time. And so you may find the same data in multiple data warehouses, may even find it with different data names in different data warehouses. But that's pretty typical in large organizations today, where they don't have one enterprise data warehouse for absolutely everything in their business. They may end up having more than one, maybe for marketing and sales, maybe for finance, maybe for inventory management. So given that that's the kind of landscape that you might be going into, what are the challenges with all of that? I think one of the big challenges with digital transformation is, in my day when I started and I left university and went in, we were dealing with completely centralized computing. I started out on a mainframe. Today, we are now dealing with organizations that themselves could have multiple on-premises data centers, maybe in different geographies. We have systems being deployed in multiple clouds. And again, if you're a global organization, that could be different regions of multiple clouds. And also, we've got computing happening at the edge with all kinds of edge devices and IoT and whatnot happening out there. So we are in a distributed computing landscape where it's much more challenging and more complicated because we've got systems and data across this landscape. And so when it comes to data, when you go out into organizations, you shouldn't expect data to all be beautifully in one place and nicely organized and all clean and everything for you to use. What you should expect is that you've got a complex data estate, which means that data could be in software as a service applications in the data centers of those vendors. You could have data and systems on multiple clouds. You could have data and systems on premises, and you could have data coming off of edge devices. So data is spread across this landscape, and it's a challenge to manage it and govern it and find things. And with data pouring in from more and more new data sources onto multiple clouds, and coming into multiple data stores on premises even as well. The whole complexity side of it is getting progressively more challenging. And not surprisingly, people who are tasked with getting data and being able to engineer it and clean it up and integrate it, even they are struggling to understand what data is out there or the degree of redundancy, how many copies of the same data is out there. So it's a big challenge, but it's surmountable, absolutely surmountable. The danger is, as a data professional, you get in the weeds, as we would say, down there in the detail, but sort of forget so much about the kind of business you're in. One thing I could honestly say to you, hand on heart, is always go into a business and believe you should learn about the business itself. Learn how the business operates. Learn how the processes work. Talk to people who work in the business and understand the issues they have. It'll really help you get closer to the people in business on a day-to-day basis if you really understand and follow how a business operates, rather than just focus on data related and data engineering issues. But nevertheless, it's a challenge to be able to do this. And there's other issues with these silos. For example, you can see here I've highlighted a number of data integration tools boxes for each silo. Often the case that different tools are being used for different siloed systems. And so there's often maybe far more data integration tools available than you necessarily need. But what's more important is that people are often extracting and transforming and integrating the same data repeatedly across these systems, when they could probably, in an ideal world, do it once and reuse it everywhere, which would be much more sensible. And so, what you see is pipelines being built for different analytical use cases, whether it's for machine learning models, whether it's for data warehousing or graph analysis or whatever. But you often run into the case where everything's being point to point, taking data from these sources to this one system. When you then say, well, how many times are we doing this? How many people are doing the same thing? How many people are engineering the same data again and again and again? But it does happen in a lot of systems. Now, the problem with that is that we get a situation where we have often people working on centralized systems that are in IT. The number of, the people who work with the data sources, they know those individual data sources. They don't know all of the data sources. They know the systems that they work with. The people wanting to analyze the data are only interested in the data in the context of the part of the business that they're working in. And so they're kind of domain specific as well. But the people in the center have no idea of any intimate knowledge of all these data sources to understand any problems in the data. Don't know where the data quality related issues are. And as more and more data sources grow, which is definitely happening, we find a situation where people in the center aren't owning the data. The number of sources is growing rapidly, and the number of consumers wanting that data is growing rapidly, and the poor folks in the middle become a bottleneck. And so you see a desire for even more data engineers in the business to clear the backlog and allow more productivity to be able to produce data that's needed for analysis. The only challenge with all of that is what people are worried about is data governance. We're in a world of compliance these days, and people are worried about a Wild West situation breaking out if everybody's grabbing tools and doing what they want, pulling data from anywhere and everywhere. And so I don't want to paint a picture of doom and gloom, absolutely not. But please don't assume all your data is clean. Without doubt, you should expect you're going to have to deal with these problems that companies face. But what we also don't want is everybody blindly integrating data with no attempt to share what they're creating, because that's just going to cause more silos of data. And then you would ask another question, well, okay, if we let that happen, how many times would be extracting the same data again and again repeatedly? And ultimately, if you let that deteriorate, people would then say, hold on a second, how many copies of this data have we got? Are they all inconsistent? Have we got multiple versions? Does anybody know who's got the right version? And before you know it, you could be, in a situation that really is breaking down, people losing confidence in it. And that's not what you want to happen. But bear in mind, this is going on and does need kind of wrestled to the ground. And so you should be conscious of it It's not something you should worry about. It's the fact that you should think, how can we organize it better? And similarly, with all of the different business intelligence tools being used around different departments of a business, you will find that there are multiple tools out there that people are skilled in one tool but not another. You'll also find in data science, there's lots of different data science tools maybe being used in large organizations. Maybe not huge amounts, but certainly multiple different approaches being taken by different parts of the business. And so ultimately what we're seeing here is the fact that today there's enormous, from a top-down perspective, enormous enthusiasm from executives and enormous expectations. They want to fund it, they want it to be disruptive, and they want it to drive value. But what we're dealing with in practice is we have fracturing going on. We have siloed systems in many cases. We've got a fractured approach to different, data engineering because people are using different tools on different systems. Same goes with BI and data science. We've got, again, different tools being used by different people, and it's all kind of happening, but it's all kind of happening in a kind of sort of siloed way. And so it's no one's kind of like looking at this from 1,000 feet and going, how exactly is all this coming together in order to really drive value? So there's no question we're getting value out of all this stuff. But, if you could join the dots, my goodness, the ability to really take a step change in driving value would be massive. And so given that degree of complexity, especially with data spreading out across an organization, it's kind of not surprising that we're seeing surveys like this. This is a survey run by a very good friend of mine, Carsten Bang. It's the largest data and analytics survey in the world. It has over 2,500 companies participating. And you can see now in 2022, the top 3 issues in data and analytics are all data, not analytics at all. It's all about master data and data quality. It's all about data culture and data governance. And if you look at a different survey, one that I showed earlier, but a different statistic, you can now see that investment in data initiatives is higher than in analytics. And I think that's reflective of the survey you see top left here, which is the fact that people have more data problems. They've got a more complex data landscape. And as a result of that, we're dealing with a situation whereby we have to get on top of it, because if we can't get the data right, everything else that comes out of it is also going to be flawed. And so there's priority being given to data related issues. But you see data culture here, second on this list. It's gone up in priority. Look at that since 2019. Data culture has risen and risen and risen. And again, reflected in another survey. Over 4 straight years, you can see here, establishing a data culture is a real problem in organizations. And if you look at why is that, it's saying it's down to people and processes. So people are in the way. That means people aren't buying in necessarily around the business. And we all know, or maybe you do know, the famous expression by Peter Drucker, which is culture eats strategy for breakfast. And if you can't get the culture right, getting buy-in to everything else has got roadblocks in the way. Now, I can honestly tell you, in pushing 40 years in the industry now, for me, the only way I have learned to change a culture in an organization is to talk to them about what's wrong with their business and how you can change it with data and analytics. And if you're a data professional or an analytics professional, you can't articulate this until you know the problems that are going on in the business within which you work. You have to go and follow those processes, understand your operations, talk to the people in those parts of the business and see what's going on to really appreciate the problems they have. And then you can see, okay, now I can talk about real business cases because I understand what the problems are. And you can articulate it and really make a difference. I mean, a retailer, for example, you'd have to say the core of their business is customers, products, stores, and time. Who is buying what, through where, when? And of course, the e-channel as well now. But that's right in the guts of a retailing organization. It would have to be there. I mean, you can't really understand a retail. Of course, there's the supply chain side and the whole logistics operation. But who's buying what, through where, when, fundamentally got to be there. But if you're going to solve the data culture problem and get people on board, the penny has to drop in their head as to why. Why is it you want, you want to do this? Why is it you want my participation? And if they understand why and the business reason is compelling, they will absolutely jump on board and will be enthusiastic because they understand why. But if they don't know why and you can't articulate why, then they will resist and they'll say, what's this got to do with my day job? And I've seen it a million times. I've experienced it. I've been told, go away. And basically the message to me was, go away and learn, and come back and tell me what's wrong. Why is it that, what can you do with data and analytics that is really going to make a difference? And what's the overall return on investment from doing that? You've got to be able to understand the business you're in. But given that all of these people could be producing data with all of these tools, the last thing you want is this, the picture on the left. What everybody wants is the picture on the right. They want it organized so that people are productive. They can easily find things. They know it's trusted. They can go in and move with it. So given that that's the case, and we understand the problems and we understand the executive desire, there's no question they want to do this, then what should you be looking for to overcome these challenges? The first thing you got to look for is getting a trusted data foundation. You can't be disruptive if you don't trust the data in which you're delivering the insights and producing the value. You can't do it. You can't have data with bias in it, because you can't scale automation if you've got bias. People will just stop the automation and say, we can't do this until we fix the bias problem. You can't do it if you've got a data quality problem. We got to have a trusted data foundation. The other thing going on in almost every business that I deal with today is the expectation at the C level is everybody should pull on the same rope. They want mass contribution to common business objectives. So if you don't know your own business strategy and the key performance indicators, which are the outcomes that people are trying to measure to see whether they're on track to achieving these goals, if you don't know what those are, you can't contribute because you don't know what they are. You're working blind. And so I would honestly say, please ask about your business strategy. Say, what is it that the executives are saying? What are the priorities? What are we doing in data and what are we doing in analytics in order to help achieve those goals? And who's doing what? And how does it all fit together? So if you're like any business, you should go to your strategy. And if I'm looking at a front office, marketing, sales, and service, or I'm looking at a back office of finance, procurement, and HR, or some kind of part of your operation, whether you're selling products or services, it should be the case that you should say, what data and analytical products, if you like, in your organization are in play to achieve an objective. So, for example, if I'm trying to improve customer experience, which we saw was really high on the agenda of the CIO survey last year. Well, what data do I need and what analytics, what models, what BI do I need that's going to do that? where should these be taking place across the business in order to cover that completely? Similarly, if I want to reduce risk, well, what's going on to do that and who's doing what? And what team am I part of, and what's my team doing, and how does it fit with helping to achieve these goals? And if I'm trying to optimize a part of business operations, again, well, what projects are underway to do that and what data is needed to do it? Got to tie it back to these core outcomes if we're really going to see value, because at the C level, there are people who are accountable to make these outcomes happen. And if you can help them achieve that, they're just going to back you all the way. But ultimately, you need to align what you're producing in terms of data and what you're producing in terms of BI and analytical models with strategic objectives, so that you can understand the contribution of what you're building to those goals. The other thing that's frustrating C-level execs is that all this fracturing is saying, look, we want this to move faster. We want more agility. We want it. So what they want is, don't give me fractured data engineering and fractured analytical initiatives. Industrialize it. Join it up and make it work like a well-oiled machine. And that really means they want a common approach to producing data. They want, they want things standardized where it's possible to do so. They want things modularized so it's easier when I can pick off modules that are already available to me and add ones that are not. And get faster at doing this, but in a controlled and organized way, so that it's not going to lead to inconsistencies, which also means that we're seeing data producers and data consumers. And if you're a data professional going into an organization, you're going to be on the left-hand side of this chart. It means you want to know about what data is out there and what am I producing and how am I going to make it available to the people who need to consume it so they can take it and drive value with it. And there's going to be multiple teams of data producers, and it's not just going to be IT. It's a mix of business and IT. So if you're going into business, you could be joining a team to help produce data there, or maybe have embedded IT folks on your team in order to be able to do it. But you're going to want to publish it somewhere so that everybody else in the business can see it and use it. And so what companies are screaming for at the executive level, in my opinion, when they talk about industrialized, they want ready-made. They want you to build data products and make them available a bit like a canteen. You just walk in, this is what I need. I know it's clean. I know it's trusted. I can pick it up and use it and drive value with it. That's what they want. And it's your obligation almost as a data professional to try and help make that happen within the teams within which you may be working. So that, because people, if you produce something on customer, it's not just going to be people in sales or marketing or service going to use that. I need that in distribution. I need it in finance. I mean, so why should I reinvent it again when I could use it again? And you're going to see also this desire to create data products, whether they're physical data sets, like here's the set of customers we have, or the products we have, or the orders that we have, or whatever, or whether it's virtual data sets, which means that it looks like an integrated set of data, but it's actually sitting in multiple back-end systems. But to the consumer, it looks like it's all in one place. But from that, all these consumers are going to build what you see in gray here, all of these reports, dashboards, stories, predictive analytical models, decision services like recommenders and things like that, complete automated bots, AI-driven bots, all of which are entirely dependent on the data. And if the data is wrong, guess what? Everything in gray is also going to be wrong. So you've got to get this data foundation right, because everything else that's going to get built on it depends on that. But we've also wanted it industrialized, and therefore people want to bring together these kind of core technologies to help them do that. So, for example, I want a data catalog to help me. What data is out there? I need data fabric software, which, let's say, sits across all of these data stores all over the multiple clouds and on premises and all the way out to the edge. It allows me to get at it, allows me to build pipelines that I can produce data that people then can use because they can trust it. I need things like a data marketplace, for example, to publish ready-made trusted data that's compliant, safe to use. People can go and use it so that they can go there like a shop window and say, hey, what's available? I got this problem. What's already available? What's ready-made that I can pick up and go with? It's going to save me a ton of time and stop me reinventing wheels. And it's got to be compliant, obviously. I don't want to pick up data that would force you to be inadvertently non-compliant with legislation within the country within which you're operating in. So data catalogs are exactly that. They're there to automatically discover what data you have across this distributed landscape in your data center in multiple clouds all the way out to the edge. It should tell you, what's out there, using machine learning to learn about what's out there and give you a map. Now, I have clients right now with billions of entries in their data catalog. So they also need to map it to common data names in order to be able to understand this very complex data landscape. But data catalogs are out there. There's a lot of them out there. Please don't assume they're all the same. But you may also find that your company either doesn't have one of these. That would be a hole, I would say, in their technology that they need. But it could be that they have multiple. If they have multiple, then somebody better be organizing it to say who's using what for what in order to help you understand how your data landscape. But if you do know the data landscape, you then need software to connect to it, allowing multiple teams of producers to build pipelines and create the data you need. That's what Data Fabric should do. It should allow you to do, not only to use the catalog, to build pipelines, to get modular development, collaborative development going, share metadata across everything so everybody knows what's going on. And it's these two technologies which are the core platform that you should really be looking for, within your organization. Now, again, there's competition in terms of the data fabric market that continues to unfold. And again, you may find in big organizations, especially, you might even find multiple vendors on this list in that organization. But again, people are trying to, let's say, simplify what they have, maybe rationalize it a little bit in order to be able to get more people using a common approach. Remember I said industrialize. Well, if you're going to industrialize things, you need to standardize things, get a more common approach, speed it up, and start sharing a lot more than people are. And so that's where we see the alignment, multiple teams of data producers using your fabric and your catalog to be able to get at the data, produce the data products and the analytics that you need that can be consumed by others to drive value. And so this kind of federated approach where there's a center of excellence and a program office that kind of knows here's how we're, what we're doing to reduce risk, here's what we're doing to improve customer experience, and knows which teams are in play doing what in order to piece that together. It's the kind of thing you should be looking for. It's not just what technology you need, it's how you organized. If you're just in different parts of the organization and no one's talking to anybody else, there's probably this federated bit sitting over the top that's not harnessing everything and organizing it.
Mike, can I just interrupt for a second and just give you your 10-minute warning?
No worries. Okay. So, and what I said before, everybody reproducing the same data. Why not? Can we not just all use common data fabric and just build data products? Build them once, reuse them everywhere, so that it doesn't matter who needs them. They can go to a shop window, find what they need and go. That's what we're trying to do. It's really going to shorten the time to value, make a big difference. And I just got a couple of steps in here to sort of say, how would you go about doing and building those data products? Automatic discovery of what's out there, building these pipelines, making them available in a marketplace and publishing them for consumption so they can go with it. But if you're in a data professional and you're going into data engineering, think about modular. Don't think about building the whole pipeline end to end. Think about, are there any libraries of reusable stuff? It's really going to speed me up. Remember, we're trying to industrialize this. Why invent a new way to do something if there's already a way to do it available that everybody could use? Don't reinvent for the sake of it, but look for shared libraries and things like that that could really make a difference to your productivity. And obviously, modular development makes a huge difference in terms of maintenance, in terms of being able to have multiple team members working on different parts of a pipeline in order to produce what's needed. All of those benefits are there. And ultimately, produce a data marketplace. This is just an example. I chose at random. It's Informatica's data marketplace, but you can see ready-made data products, all rated, quality scores around them. People can search to find a data product. Maybe it's associated with a different part of the business. They can select it, say, this is the one I want. It's ready-made, ready to go. It's the canteen we talked about earlier. And put that data foundation in place so that all these people around the organization can consume it and start building stuff that's really going to make a difference in different parts of the business. So this marketplace is going to be huge, whether you're making, to build BI and models, to be used in operations, to be used at a tactical level in middle management, or maybe even used at the strategic level to help guide executives. All of them are needed, and we all need to build it all, but it's got to come together around common goals and objectives. Because if you're trying to improve customer experience, there are people in operations trying to do that. There are people, middle managers trying to help do that, and there are people accountable at the executive level to help do that. They all want to be part of it. They all want to be integrated and delivering on mass contribution to a common goal. So yeah, again, it's like, well, which reusable data products, which analytical products can I use in order to deliver on this strategy to improve customer experience or reduce risk, and where should they be deployed? That's really all I'm trying to say here. So given that, well, what can you do to be effective in all of this? If you're going out into industry for the first time, it's daunting. I was overwhelmed when I went out. I didn't know what to expect. But the one thing I look back on my career, and I think the one thing I didn't do early enough, is I didn't learn about the business of the company I went in to work for. I didn't do that. I got into the weeds, like I was programming, I think at the time in PL1 on a VAX 11780 machine on a mainframe. And I was just like, yeah, into it. This is super cool. And I was so into the technology, and these technology guys were coming in to see me, and I thought technology was cool. I forgot about the business I was working in. Now, if you're an executive looking down on lots of folks doing that across your organization, they're frustrated because they want it organized, they want it industrialized, and they want to shorten the time to value in order to really make a difference. And so one of the things you could do is get hold of your company's business strategy. And if you find people that say, oh, you don't need to worry about that in your job, don't care about it, I wouldn't accept that. I really wouldn't. I would just keep asking. If you're working for a department, they may even show you your departmental objectives. But please bear in mind, something like customer isn't just a department thing. It's right across the business. And so you want to know, what's the strategy of your company, not just your department? And what are the main priorities? And who are the people accountable? How is this whole puzzle coming together? And how are you organized for data analytics? Are there different teams? Is there some kind of CDO up here that's kind of, organizing all of this or coordinating all of it, even if he's not your direct boss, or even, if you report into a head of a business department or something like that? You want to know, how's it all coming together? Because organization matters. What are the key technologies? Have you got them all? Have you got a data catalog? Have you got data fabric software? Are there standardized approaches to doing things to help industrialize the development and make it easier to do? Can you automate testing? Can you automate deployment so that, once you've come up with a new version of a pipeline, there's this industrialized process that kicks in and does this for you? Can you create a marketplace where people can go and say, well, rather than call somebody or email somebody and say, any idea where this data might be? Could you not go to a shop window and just find it? I mean, that's what we want to see within an organization. And then also label things. Like, for example, if you're building a pipeline to produce a data set or a data product, label it to say this is to do with, I need this for customer engagement, or I need it for risk, or I need it for improving efficiencies, or maybe this can be used in a couple of objectives. Label it so that people know that. Same with your models that you're building, same with BI. I want to know if I yank on this label that says improve customer experience, I see all of these things that are helping to do that, and how so that you can show how what you're building is contributing to the overall outcomes of an organization, and make sure the technologies integrate, they work together. Don't expect that everything works together in an organization, but also please keep asking questions. Why does this not work with this? Because if people want to industrialize things, it has to join up. And I would always, looking back on my career, always favor integration over best of breed. If you know that these software products are going to work together and make a massive difference in productivity, I would go with that rather than say this product isn't as good as this one. It's got more features. But if you buy two products that have got more features and don't work together, guess what? You've got to build whatever's in between. And make suggestions. Don't be afraid to have people push back on you and say that's irrelevant. Make suggestions. Trust your gut. You guys are talented. You're coming out of university. You're smart people. Have confidence in yourself and don't be afraid to speak up, because people in industry need you. Industry absolutely needs you. And if you can do some or all of these things, and I hope it's helped a lot, all I can just say is good luck with all of it. But I hope that's given you a kind of rough idea of what to what you could expect out there. I hope it's been useful, but I guess at this point I'll hand back to Lucy.
Oh, Mike, amazing. Thank you so much. Really, really amazing. And obviously I'm not technical, as you know, but I got so much from it. And I really love the fact that, it's communication breeds collaboration, right? And that whole culture piece really, really resonated with me.
And then don't go to work with two left feet either.
And don't go to work with two left feet. And then that creates the change, right? So it comes back to those skills that are so important about communication and collaboration and transparency and asking questions. So I know these are messages that hopefully have landed well. They're things that I do talk about with the students an awful lot. We do have a question from the audience. So just bear with me. So we have a couple of questions. So when is modular too modular if it prevents flexibility of customization and or becomes too granular to manage?
That's a very good point.
I'm glad you're answering that and not me.
It's a fine line. Well, clearly, if there's so many components that you don't know what people are doing, you're losing control of it. There's a problem, right? I mean, but if you look at what's happened in our industry, software development used to be you build an application which was one monolithic application. Now we're in a world of microservices. If any of you use Microsoft Office 365, if you're an account owner, in other words, you get notified I get notified almost every day, maybe sometimes, well, maybe it's not every day, but probably a couple of times a week by Microsoft that this new capability is just being rolled out. And it means they're rolling it out on a continuous basis. They're able to make changes and add new capabilities on a continuous basis. That's because of microservices. The whole thing's being built. Take a monolithic problem, break it down into smaller pieces. I think the same needs to happen with pipelines. Is you can break it up into ingestion, into transformations, into data cleansing, into governance capabilities, which is kind of what I was trying to say with these libraries of things, in order to try and standardize it, save people time. But very clearly, I think you just have to revisit this and keep saying, is this getting out of hand? Can we keep it organized? Is there an easy taxonomy in which to keep it organized so people understand what's out there? So clearly, if there's far too many bits, you'll lose track of it. But that's the situation with data at the moment. If there's all this data scattered out there, you'll lose track of it unless there's some way to organize it and make it easier to find. And that's what we're seeing with the likes of data catalogs, helping with that. But yeah, I mean, it's a difficult question to answer. I don't know exactly where the line is, but I think you can break a pipeline into, let's call it, understandable pieces: ingestion, cleansing, transformations, governance capabilities, like, you know, masking data for privacy and whatnot. You know, these kinds of things, you can break them into that and isolate these things in order to make it easy to maintain over the longer term.
Okay, thanks, Mike. And now our next one is, how automated are data cataloging systems in terms of discovery, mechanisms, etc.? Or does data cataloging always require a significant amount of manual detective work?
Okay, so this is going to vary by product. Great question. It's going to vary by product as to which product you have. But, you know, a good data catalog should have a significant amount of automated data discovery, and it should have a large number of, let's call it, built-in classifiers. There's trained machine learning models built into the software. You know, for example, if I look at IBM or Microsoft or vendors like that, or even Informatica, you're probably talking at least a couple of hundred machine learning models baked into the software already. It should also be extensible so that you can add rules, regular expressions, or you can add your own classifiers, train your own models and add them in so that they can also label data for you. So that it's extensible. And so I would say there's still problems in data catalogs. For example, understanding which, you know, the data in software as a service applications, you know, out there. Some of these data catalogs can't reach some of those software as a service applications, which might force you to unload data into files and then do the discovery on the files. I mean, so you can at least know what's in there. But so you wouldn't, if you took an inventory of all the sources of data within your organization and then went to a catalog, yeah, that's a good decision when you're choosing the software. You can understand, well, how much of this is going to be covered and how much is not. But manual, you know, do people have to manually label all of this stuff? Absolutely not. You know, the way around this is you may have to manually label some things, but the way around is to add your own automation, add your own rules, add your own, you know, and also get software that's self-learning, so that it's observing. If you manually label something, it observes it and learns itself to do it, so that you remove the need to manually do this. But it's going to vary by product. There's no question about that. So don't view all data catalogs as being equal.
Okay, the next question, but you might have already answered that because you've just said about the automation. So the next question was about when you're creating a data catalog, one challenge that they're concerned about. The question is, like, how do you keep it up to date? And I think you just talked about keeping it automated. And I think you can schedule the crawlers that are out there, so they run on a regular basis, several times a day, several times an hour, as often as you like. So it keeps itself up to date. The big problem is when you populate a catalog, you could end up with billions of entries. And that's why common data names are important for an organization, you know, common definition for a customer or for products or for orders or whatever it is, so that you can then map to their common definitions. And again, some data catalogs are better at automating that than others are. Mm-hmm. But this, you know, the more that can happen, then you can start to manage your catalog through a business lens and say, okay, tell me where customer is, you know, because you can then see the mappings to all of these physical pieces of data scattered across multiple data stores. So don't expect it all to be green and beautiful and everything's done for you. But yeah, very clearly, you know, some of these catalogs are, you know, we're not at release 1 anymore for several of these catalog products. You know, several of these catalog products are, you know, 5-6 years old now. So, you know, we're getting good at it. Yeah, absolutely. I think that's all the questions that have come through, Mike. So really just wanting to thank you very much for your valuable time and insight. I've certainly learned an awful lot from tonight's session.
I've just left you this, just threw it in. It's an architecture I use. You can kind of see along the bottom. You use your catalog and your fabric to connect to your edge and your on premises, and you build data products. Brilliant. And then you open it up for people to consume and build analytics and BI, which is in the middle of the enterprise. And then people want to wire it in to marketing or sales or service or finance. And so you create these intelligent apps or artificially intelligent apps where you're leveraging this to the max across the business. And then from there, people want to, roll it up and see how is this contributing to my KPIs and my business strategy, and can I even get what's called self-learning or reinforcement learning, where you can get better and better at achieving those objectives using reinforcement learning techniques. So that ultimately different people in different parts of the business are being assisted in the jobs they do, whether they're working at operational level or tactical level or strategic level, in helping them contribute to the objectives that they're tasked with contributing towards, and that's basically what this architecture's there to do.
That's brilliant, Mike. And it's all about that self-empowerment, right? Being able to be able to connect and find that service that you need, right? That off-the-shelf kind of thinking, that canteen mentality, like that's what we need, right? Yeah, absolutely. So that's absolutely wonderful. I'm so delighted to have you with us on our first session. Thank you so much, Mike.
Thank you.
And yeah, I'm really grateful for your time. Thank you, everybody, for attending today. We're so happy to do the first one. Yay! Thanks, everyone, for coming. It was so lovely. And we'll catch you next month. Thank you very much.